Jewish thoughts on Prophesies regarding Messiah. According to the teaching of the Rizl as written by Rabbi Chaim Vital, it will be like it was with Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe was born of flesh and blood by a mother and father just like everyone else. So it will be with Mashiach. At the beginning of his life, he doesn't even know himself who he is. Through leading a righteous life, he will gain greater and greater merit until, like Moshe, he will merit to the perfection of his nefesh, ruach and neshama. For Moshe, this was completing the tikkun of Hevel and Sheth. This was indicated in the written Torah by the burning bush. The burning fire is the letters from the names of Hevel and Sheth. At this point, like Moshe, he will know that he is the actual Redeemer. But most of the Jewish people will not know or recognize this. It will be like Moshe. After telling the Jewish people that the time of the redemption has come, Mashiach will go into hiding, both body and soul. It equates this time period with when Moshe entered the cloud to receive the Torah. It says Mashiach will actually depart this world physically. And when he returns, only then will he be revealed completely, and all Israel will discern and recognize him. The natural death will no longer exist, but if someone kills someone, death will still happen. The Chazam Sofer in Torah's Moshe on Pars, has Shoftim says that the Gerim, proselytes, that come to Klal Yisrael will not reach the level of death not affecting them, but will be only counted as Jews, and therefore the cities of refuge will be for them. The Shnei Luchos Habris, known to us by his acronym as the Shla, answers there are many different time periods after Mashiach comes. The city of refuge will be needed for the initial stages, and only later will death disappear from the world. There are two ways Mashiach can come. We bring him with our good deeds, or time runs out and history runs its course and Hashem is forced to bring Mashiach even though we are undeserving. In the case we are undeserving, the outcome will be, as the Rambam says, the world will continue as it is accustomed and death will still happen, and that is why the city of refuge will be needed if we get Mashiach by history ruining its course. According to the Rambam, the times of Mashiach will have death too, so as our Aryeh Kaplan thus paskins, if I can use the term, that Mashiach, yes, even Ben David, will die too. For those people who think that Moshe could be Redeemer, Moshe had two arguments why he shouldn't be the Redeemer. He didn't want to exalt himself above his older brother. He realized he wasn't going to be the final Redeemer and therefore thought it was a waste of time for him to take the Jews out of Egypt. GD's answer/rebuttal was in the donkey. From the essay. To answer these complaints, GD had Moses ride the donkey that Abraham had readily saddled to fulfill GD's command, indicating to him that he, too, should fulfill GD's command without hesitation. The fact that this donkey was also the one that the Mashiach will ride indicated that Moshe should regard the redemption from Egypt not as a failed attempt to reach the ultimate redemption but as a necessary phase in it. Furthermore, by emphasizing that the Mashiach will be revealed riding specifically on a lowly donkey, GD was telling Moshe that his humility in wishing to defer to Aaron was in fact his prime qualification for the role of Redeemer. The essay then goes on to bring the Lubavitcher Rebbe's explanation of the different ways Abraham, Moshe, and Mashiach interacted with physicality, as represented by the Chamer/Chomer connection brought by the Ger Aryeh, and how that applies to each of us in our own service of GD. I tried to summarize this but failed miserably, so read it inside. As quoted in Hadaf Had's answer, the question of a human Messiah is in fact debated in the Talmud. However, the Rambam, the sole codifier of Messianic halacha, clearly rules, Hilchos Melachim 11:1, in accordance with the majority opinion that Moshiach will be a human being from the family of King David, and that anyone who does not believe in him or does not await his coming denies not only the statements of the other prophets, but those of the Torah and Moses, our teacher. Similarly, the Chazam Sofer, Shu Tyd 356, writes that post this ruling, believing in a non-human Messiah is considered heresy of the entire Torah. The Lubavitcher Rebbe explains why it is essential for Mashiach to be a human being. Sefer Hashichos 57:52 Pars, has Chei Sora, see here. The purpose of man's divine service is to effect a union between Gidlinus and this lowly world. Man's mission is to perfect this world by bringing spirituality and Gidlinus into an otherwise ungodly world. This is accomplished by performing mitzvos with physical items, thus drawing down the divine into our world. The ultimate realization of this will be the coming of Mashiach, when every dimension of our worldly existence will be truly permeated by Gidlinus. To cause a union of two diametrically opposed ideas, GD, and this world, is a tremendous challenge. The only way such a union could be orchestrated is by a third party that represents both sides. GD cannot create the union because he is one of the sides in the deal. Neither can any of the angels do so, since they have no connection to the physical. Mashiach will therefore be a human of flesh and blood who undergoes the suffering of this world, yet at the same time will possess the highest and purest soul, the ultimate candidate to bridge these two opposites. In Rabbi Akiva Tat's book, World Mask, he addresses this question. He gives a fascinating answer that hopefully gives some insight. The message of the Messianic King is to teach the deepest level of human striving and achievement, the ultimate purpose of human existence in its most potent form, which is the work of sacrificing the self, of yielding the ego of service of Hashem. The Mashiach will be the most developed and exalted individual imaginable, by far the most powerful and mighty king to ever rule, and yet he will show that he himself is empty of all independent existence. All is Hashem, all dominion is his. Ein od milvado, there is nothing other than him. In the future, the Messianic King will arise and renew the Davidic dynasty, restoring it to its initial sovereignty. He will build the temple and gather the dispersed of Israel. Then, in his days, the observance of all the statutes will return to their previous state. We will offer sacrifices, observe the sabbatical and jubilee years according to all their particulars as described by the Torah. Israel didn't reinstitute kings of the Davidic dynasty. Israel didn't rebuild the temple, nor did it gather the dispersed of Israel. Less than 50% of known Jews live in Israel. Unfortunately, we don't have the observance of all the statutes will return to their previous state. If anything, it's much worse now than ever before. We have no sacrifices, Shemitah or Yovel, at least the latter of which requires that we know which tribes one come from. Similarly, with regard to the cities of refuge, Deuteronomy 19 verses 8 to 9 states, "When GD will expand your borders, you must add 3 more cities." This command was never fulfilled. Surely, GD did not give this command in vain. We didn't conquer Transjordan, so we didn't make any cities of refuge there. If a king will arise from the house of David who diligently contemplates the Torah and observes its mitzvot as prescribed by the written law and the oral law as David, his ancestor, will compel all of Israel to walk in the way of the Torah and rectify the breaches in its observance, and fight the wars of God, we may, with assurance, consider him Mashiach. Unfortunately, Israel does none of the above. If he succeeds in the above, builds the temple in its place, and gathers the dispersed of Israel, he is definitely the Mashiach. Unfortunately, Israel does none of the above. He will then improve the entire world, motivating all the nations to serve GD together, as Zephaniah 3:9 states, "I will transform the peoples to a purer language that they all will call upon the name of GD and serve him with one purpose." Unfortunately, Israel does none of the above. If he did not succeed to this degree or was killed, he surely is not the Redeemer promised by the Torah. Rather, he should be considered as all the other proper and complete kings of the Davidic dynasty who died. GD caused him to arise only to test the many, as Daniel 11 verse 35 states. And some of the wise men will stumble, to try them, to refine, and to clarify until the appointed time, because the set time is in the future. 12. Halacha 1. Do not presume that in the Messianic age any facet of the world's nature will change or there will be innovations in the work of creation. Rather, the world will continue according to its pattern. Although Isaiah 11 verse 6 states, "The wolf will dwell with the lamb, the leopard will lie down with the young goat." These words are a metaphor and a parable. The interpretation of the prophecy is as follows. Israel will dwell securely together with the wicked Gentiles who are likened to a wolf and a leopard, as in the prophecy Jeremiah 5:6. "A wolf from the wilderness shall spoil them, and a leopard will stalk their cities. They will all return to the true faith and no longer steal or destroy. Rather, they will eat permitted food at peace with Israel, as Isaiah 11 verse 7 states. The lion will eat straw like an ox." Similarly, other messianic prophecies of this nature are metaphors. In the messianic era, everyone will realize which matters were implied by these metaphors and which allusions they contained. Halacha 2. Our sages taught, there will be no difference between the current age and the Messianic era except the emancipation from our subjugation to the Gentile kingdoms. The simple interpretation of the prophet's words appear to imply that the war of Gog and Magog will take place at the beginning of the Messianic age. Before the war of Gog and Magog, a prophet will arise to inspire Israel to be upright and prepare their hearts, as Malachi 3:22 states, "Behold, I am sending you Elijah. He will not come to declare the pure impure, or to declare the impure pure. He will not dispute the lineage of those presumed to be of proper pedigree, nor will he validate the pedigree of those whose lineage is presumed blemished. Rather, he will establish peace within the world, as Ibid 3:24 continues. He will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children." There are some sages who say that Elijah's coming will precede the coming of the Mashiach. All these and similar matters cannot be definitely known by man until they occur, for these matters are undefined in the prophet's words, and even the wise men have no established tradition regarding these matters except their own interpretation of the verses. Therefore, there is a controversy among them regarding these matters. Regardless of the debate concerning these questions, neither the order of the occurrence of these events or their precise detail are among the fundamental principles of the faith. A person should not occupy himself with the Aggadot and homiletics concerning these and similar matters, nor should he consider them as essentials, for study of them will neither bring fear or love of God. Similarly, one should not try to determine the appointed time for Mashiach's coming. Our sages declared, "May the spirits of those who attempt to determine the time of Mashiach's coming expire." Rather, one should await and believe in the general conception of the matter as explained. Halacha 3. During the era of the Messianic king, once his kingdom has been established and all of Israel has gathered around him, the entire nation's line of descent will be established on the basis of his words and the prophetic spirit which will rest upon him, as Malachi 3 verse 3 states. He shall sit as a refiner and purifier. He will purify the lineage of the Levites first, stating he is a priest of defined lineage. He is a Levite of defined lineage. Those whose lineage he will not recognize will be lowered to the status of Israelites. This is implied by Ezra 2 hours 63 minutes. The governor said to them, "They should not eat of the most holy things until a priest arises who will wear the Urim Vitumim." From this verse, you can infer that the prophetic spirit will be used to define and notify the pedigree of lineage. When he defines the lineage of the Israelites, he will make known their tribal lineage alone, stating, "He is from this tribe and he is from another tribe." He will not, by contrast, state concerning a person who is presumed to be of unblemished lineage, "He is illegitimate" or "He is of slave lineage." For the law is, once a family has become intermingled with the entire Jewish people, they may remain intermingled. Halacha 4. The sages and the prophets did not yearn for the Messianic era in order to have dominion over the entire world, to rule over the Gentiles, to be exalted by the nations, or to eat, drink, and celebrate. Rather, they desired to be free to involve themselves in Torah and wisdom without any pressures or disturbances, so that they would merit the world to come, as explained in Hilchot Teshuvah. Halacha 5. In that era, there will be neither famine or war, envy or competition for good will flow in abundance, and all the delights will be freely available as dust. The occupation of the entire world will be solely to know God. Therefore, the Jews will be great sages and know the hidden matters, grasping the knowledge of their Creator according to the full extent of human potential, as Isaiah 11 verse 9 states. The world will be filled with the knowledge of GD as the waters cover the ocean bed.